Okay, so I'm going to do a little assembly video of the Cyro compact as requested. I put together a fair amount of these over the time that I spent testing and working with Fifi on the designs on this. And I've pretty much figured out all the little nuances of how to put these together. You can see I've got my factory pieces disassembled from the original chassis. You're going to be able to reuse some of the factory fasteners. However, I do recommend ordering one of these off Amazon. This kit comes with assorted different lengths of the M2.5 fasteners with the hex nuts that you're going to need to use for things like the joystick stock that I have here. And also if you want to use the pinky ring stabilizer, which is one of my favorite little accessories that I use with it. Here is my one of my chassis I have been using. This is printed out of a High Flow Pet G material. I'm going to try using this fuzzy skinned PLA one I made. It kind of feels nice. So to get your pieces prepped, you're going to want to first take your keypad. You want to take your four-way switch, and you can see the little detent right down in here where there's only one fastener that holds this in. So you can gently twist this counterclockwise. It's kind of scary at first until that nub pops out of this hole detent, and being careful not to put too much strain on the wiring. And what that's going to do is that's going to get that four-way switch out of the way so that you can use your thumb freely. Okay, and after you've done that, just set that aside. And then here is your joystick stock. So I recommend when you put together the stock that you orientate it so the top of your flathead bolts is facing up. That way you can adjust it a little bit as needed once it's assembled on the chassis, because you're not going to be able to access this back screw. So I like to kind of snug that one up, leave this one just a little loose so that you can manipulate the joystick and then tighten that up after it's been assembled on the chassis over here like so. Okay, because you can see that it covers up the one. Maybe you can see, there you can see because it covers up this back one right there. I found that angle right there, just kind of a downward and back, is what fits the best, at least for my hand. So everybody might be a little different with that. The first thing you're going to want to do, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, is take your optical eye and motherboard, being very careful that you don't break this bush that they have here. And you're going to want to take that, drop that on, get the optical eye set in the detent, or the little hole, the recess for that, and kind of flip it over. Now for this, you're going to want to use the M2.5 by 10 millimeter bolt length, which I do believe comes on the factory chassis, but I kind of gave up on all. I've got so many fasteners floating around, I just figured out what fits the absolute best. But you don't want to use anything too long for this because you can damage your motherboard. So get yourself an appropriate Allen head fastener. And this might be a little difficult for some because I don't know how much what you got going on. Ooh, it's going to be difficult for me too because this is a fresh chassis. I haven't pushed these holes out. So it might actually just be easier to screw these in, if depending upon your print, because this print's obviously a little tighter than my other one. My other one slides in pretty good. Yep, there it goes. So just take these fasteners, poke them in there, at least a couple of them. Then you can take your bushing, set it over the holes. This is the part you want to be most careful with. Just get it kind of down over those like that. I'm going to take your optical sensor and motherboard and just place it on there. Gently tighten that. And just kind of nice to just snug one up a little bit, just to hold it all together. I like to go to the cross to the other one here. So I went from this one to this one. Gently tighten that one down until it starts to take a little bit of a bite. And if that one's still loose, I can put in my final one. These all line up pretty stinking good. But I have noticed between my other motherboards that I have that some of them seem to be like just a little different here and there, like very, very small changes. Screw that in there. Now we've got all 4 of them in there. You can go ahead and snug those up. Don't go too tight, just need to be snug. Alright. Okay, got those all snugged up. Now you've got your motherboard in. Now, the next thing you're going to want to do is move on to your stock. The most important thing about this is you can't only plug this in one way, so that's nice. But you're going to want to plug the stock in before you fasten it in, otherwise it's kind of a bear. So fasten that in like that. And now for this one, you're going to need some longer ones. These ones I did not find any factory Cyro screws that actually worked. So you're going to need M2.5 by 16 millimeter, which I've got here. Came in the kit I showed you. Kind of same deal. It's just easier to kind of get them pushed in the hole a little bit. Get those started like so. So you can see there they're kind of poking out a little because your nuts on the stock aren't actually at the bottom. They're kind of up on this a little bit, so you've got some depth in the holes that you can just kind of slide those onto, just like that. And some of these pieces that I printed, I've had to kind of run a tiny drill bit through just to loosen them up a little bit, just to make it easier. I like that one needs to be rotated. There it goes. But once you get that in, see, just slid in the rest of the way. Kind of screw a little bit. This is actually getting caught up on the new print. Okay, got that slid in. And we'll go ahead and snug that thing down. Just like so. And these you can tighten up all the way. And like I said, I already had my ball positioned how it is comfortable for me. But if you did what I said and kind of snugged up the back one and left the front one loose, you can see now that you still have access to tighten that one up, and then you can tighten and loosen it and adjust this as needed. It's also important here that you see that you orientate it so that that wire pokes out right there at about the 8 o'clock position or so, because that's how it's going to be the best as far for clearance and everything, clearing the keypad. Okay, now we've got that in there. Next, we're going to move on to keypad. That's making some noise. Oh, I think I actually need to pull my keypad apart. So we're going to go do that too, because I think that I have lost one of my nuts that are in there. So, oh, there it is. Nope. I'd be careful for those. Those things are sliding around in there. You can see them. There's a little channel in there that those nuts are in, so you don't want those to fall out all the way, because then you're going to be stuck doing what I just almost had to do, and that's open my keypad up. Now on those ones, you're going to want to use M2.5 by 10 millimeter, the same as the optical sensor. Same deal. Get those kind of pressed in the hole there. And you can use longer ones actually on this, because I did have a longer, I think 12 millimeter one in here when I took it apart, but I just went and swapped it out because it's unnecessary to be that long. I just using what I got. But then take your wire and plug it in first. Like I said, it's going to be easier to do that while it's in pieces. still kind of a pain in the butt. Sometimes I've had to use tweezers. You get that plugged in like so. Plugged in. See? Keypad's floating. Take your keypad and set it up like that. Let gravity bring those nuts back into place. Here, you want to tuck that wire in like this, so it kind of folds up behind this, in front of the stock. And just get the holes kind of lined up. Pushed in, and you can thread it a little in by hand. And just start to be very careful, thread those in. This is one you gotta kind of move it around sometimes a little bit to get the, there's only two, so you gotta make sure you move it to get that just like that, to where that lines up with that hole. You can thread it in by hand a little if you need to. Okay. Once you get it started, just gently start to screw those in, making sure that you've got a good bite. Nothing's crooked. I like to go back and forth between the two, that way you don't bind anything up and break anything. Alright, once you get those snugged up, you pretty much have a completed chassis. And the nice thing, as we've worked on this during the time that we had this R&D, is you can now plug in your mouse cable through this front hole here, which sometimes can be a pain in the butt, but it sure beats how we used to do it, where we had to plug that in before we started the assembly of the keypad. But as of right now, I mean, that's basically a usable chassis. But what we always kind of felt wanting was your pinky needs someplace to go, right? So that's where he came up with a variety of different little pinky rest deals, and I kind of went with the pinky ring because it's pretty comfortable. And to install that, you've got to slide just like the stock, you got to have some nuts from your kit there that you slip into these little recesses in the stock. Same thing with this. You got to slide a couple nuts inside these little slots so that you can fasten this to this channel rail that's on the side. Now, one thing you got to be careful for is, I would like, if I had to change anything, that we broaden this piece out just a little bit, because if you try to tighten it up too much, it will push that out. Now, that doesn't cause any issues really, but it does kind of deform it a little bit. So again, you can just kind of push that fastener through into that channel like so. So it's poking out a little bit, and then just set that on there. Trying to make this as one-handed friendly as possible. Just set it and let gravity hold that, and then you just kind of thread it in. And hopefully, I mean, I've got a little bit of a nub here I can push. Hopefully it just grabs that thing, yep, and then draws it in. So I got one started. Go on to the next. Push it through. Kind of line it up. You can see here I got it kind of angled, but it doesn't really matter, because as it goes into that piece, this is the one thing that doesn't matter as far as alignment as much, because it's got movement, as you can see, and it slides back and forth on that channel. Once you get it snugged up a little bit, then you need to position it. Now I've found, and again it's still protruding, so I haven't snugged it up all the way, but I found that for me, got a pretty big hand, long fingers, it works best if I slide this all the way forward to the front of the chassis like so. You might have to move that cable out of the way a little bit to get it all the way. But yeah, I like it like that. Once you get it positioned, can snug that up a little bit. And now you can see here too where I was talking about where it kind of presses that out a little bit, but it holds it just fine, so you don't have to worry about it. The only one thing you have to worry about is the heads do stick down a little bit below the surface of the mouse chassis itself. So if you're like me and you're using a glass mouse pad, that's no bueno. But you should be running some skates on this, which I have on this. I have another pack that I'll get out when I'm done installing these, but I like this positioning of skates. It gives a nice even pressure across the whole thing. Doesn't rock. It's really nice. Glides great on the glass, especially with the weight of this thing. It'll just soar across the glass mouse pad. So, all right, and there we go. It's pretty much the whole thing. And now you can see here why we had to clock this to make room for the thumb joystick. That way you can move your finger around like that without it hitting the four-way. You can still use the four-way. I don't ever really use it for anything, but you can. And there we go. That's pretty much the assembly. I hope you guys got everything you needed out of that and the steps that are taken to do. It's been a great upgrade to the original chassis for me. I've had a lot of great games, a lot of Red Sec dubs, a lot of Warzone dubs on this chassis. And if you guys have any more questions, please hit me up in the comments on the Discord chat, and I will try to answer them as best as I can. Oh, camera's moving a little bit. I'm going to try to plug in this too to show you. You just have to take your factory Cyro and just kind of dangle it down in there. Make sure you're getting it in the slot. Just put a little pressure. Sometimes it's a pain in the butt. As you can see, I am having problems getting that in. So here, what you could do, it depends on a lot on your cord too. This is a factory Cyro cord. Let's just loosen this up a little bit, just like this. Kind of get that out of the way a little bit more. My motherboard's got a hard port on it. It clips in pretty strong. There it goes. All right, tighten that up. Oops. Okay, got that installed nice and firm in there. All right, let's go ahead and take it for a run here. I'll go over to my OBS. Yep. As you can see here, it's working. Back to working again. Some of you might want to see too my layouts for keybinds, so I can pull that up really quick. This one's the one I use for Battlefield. Here, let's get this out of the way. Pretty much the standard layout that I use for Battlefield: Tab, E, R5, mouse clicks, Shift, space bar. That way you can just rock that pointer finger down and do your jumping. And you also notice too, with the nice thing about Battlefield is I can run it as an Xbox joystick versus keyboard keybinds, which gets me a little bit, I can actually walk slower versus over here where if I'm playing Call of Duty or Arc Raiders or something, I have to change it to a keyboard joystick, WASD, because it doesn't recognize the dual input. Of course, I have Star Wars keybinds for doing the Starfield mod. But anyway, I hope you guys liked my video. I hope that helps you guys get that thing sorted out and built. Like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.